Should be good. Yeah.
My benefit.
I think it is. It did feel like-
Okay. Can I start? Yeah. All right. So the meeting will come to order at 8:03 a.m. And April 13th, at the town hall meeting room. We can start the roll call at the end.
Rich Rita, select board ex officio.
Maureen Dean, member.
Mike Capel, member.
Nancy Knight, member.
Catherine Brennan, alternate.
Jenny Lucas, alternate.
Bill Spence, member.
Margaret Turner, alternate.
John Racine, member.
And I guess we need to state for the record that unfortunately, John is not here and this is the day that we need to swear you in, John. And I guess because you're not physically here, we can't seat you today until you're back physically here and sworn in. That's what-
Okay,
So. So because of that, we can seat. One of the longest serving. Alternates. And unfortunately, Alan's not here. So, let's see, let's do it alphabetically. Running.
There you go.
That's-
Winner.
Okay, let's see Kathleen in for, John. There. All right, so, the first order of business is, to review the previous, meeting notes. Has everybody had a chance to read them, or should we take a minute? All right, why don't we take 1 minute, just to, everybody find their minutes. You all set, Bill?
I'm ready.
Bill, I did get your corrections from, so if you don't, I have them.
You have them, so I don't need to.
You don't need to.
Excellent.
Bill, are they significant to content?
It's just by, it's word choice and things like that. It's not changing.
No.
But if you want to go
Okay.
over it.
Content, no.
That's fine.
Okay. Any
I move we accept the minutes as.
no.
Oh, what? I'm sorry.
First, we have to let people,
Oh, I thought everybody did.
no one has said anything yet. Does anybody have any corrections? I have.
That's fine.
So it's pretty minimal, but just at the top, I think line 14, if we're going to give the titles to the chair and vice chair, we should probably give the title to the secretary, John Racine.
Okay.
Okay.
And then at the bottom, oh shoot, I kind of edited it, so it might be line 84, it might not. What? No, it's not, the 81 to 83 paragraph. I found that a little confusing. So addressing the renewables and zoning were the solar panels and possibly the wind turbines. And then the clarifying the EV charging stations as an accessory use.
This I
deciding-
took directly from Wendy, what she had handed out to you guys as the goals that you discussed. So this, she handed it out at the last meeting and went and read the goals. So I just took it from there,
Oh, okay,
but I'm happy to, change stuff. Well,
okay. Wendy's not here.
If you have better wording. we
But
can
if there's,
discuss it.
yeah, that's fine. It makes it less confusing for sure.
Well, I guess I found it a little confusing when I was reading it.
Okay.
So I would probably just say address renewables and zoning, solar panels, possibly wind turbines. And then the next bullet would be clarify EV charging stations and the exact same wording.
Separate them.
Yeah, I just found that paragraph really confusing.
Okay.
That was it. Anybody else? Okey-doke. All right, would anybody like to,
I move we accept the minutes as modified.
Second,
right? Should we vote?
Rich, I.
Morgan, I.
Mike, I.
Nancy, I.
Hi. Catherine Brennan, aye.
Bill Spence, aye.
Okay, then the notes are accepted. Okay. Okay, oh boy. This is gonna be bigger than we thought. The election of officers. Everyone has their book. You've read through it. So everybody should have roles and responsibilities, planning board roles and responsibilities, and rules and procedures. Rules and procedures, anyways, all the offices are for 1 year only, so it's just a 1 year commitment. And there's 3 offices to vote for: chair, vice chair, and secretary. Our previous chair, Wendy, was fabulous, but is now on the select board and is unable to serve. What do you suggest, Mark? Should we start with the others offices and work up?
It's purely whatever you, however you want to do it.
Yeah, all right, to be honest, well, why don't we just throw it open to start with? Would anyone like to be chair of the planning board?
I will do it if no one else wants to do it. I'm away in October and December. Aside from that, no one else will do it. I would do it. Did I
I'd
say
like to
that?
nominate, hello, John Racine here. I'd like to nominate Bill Spence. If you do it.
Does Bill accept the
I
nomination?
I will decline the nomination.
Okay, anybody else? Okey-doke. Anything else you'd like to say?
People know I will do anything for the town. And that's why I said it the way I said it.
Yeah,
You want, as a vice chair, you want to move up?
no, I'm unable.
No, I. There was deference to the, as a friend. You heard what I had to say.
Yeah. All right. Then I guess we'll vote.
I would also do the chair. I would try it anyways.
Oh,
We can decide.
okay. Then we have 2 candidates.
If John wants to do it, you heard what I said. If somebody else wants to do it, that's fine. I will do it if no one else wants to.
So are you withdrawing your candidacy?
He wasn't nominated.
Well, you self-nominated. so-
Well, I would do it. Let's put it that way.
Can nominate Mike since he's not on the board right now, and can we vote for John since he's not on the board right now?
Yes, I'm sure we can.
Sure, why not?
Just he's not voting.
I think it would be insane
That's-
to not be able to vote
It's
for
going
it.
to be a regular.
So someone on the board can nominate him,
Someone from the board.
can nominate him.
Alternates.
No,
But even for internal,
I think for procedural matters,
Anyone who's seated, vote.
but I think for internal procedural matters, I think the alternates can vote, no?
Well, the official vote should be the people who are seated,
Right,
but the alternates can say, and certainly give their opinion.
Give their
to
opinion.
The way that the board is
Okay.
run, but I don't know that your rules of procedure allow them to vote.
So if you look at section 2 and section 3. No, I'm not sure myself. It doesn't address it. It says members and alternates,
I read it in last night.
and a chair shall be elected annually by a majority vote of the board in the month of March. And it defines the board as up to 6 members. One ex officio board of selectmen and 4 alternate members shall be appointed by the board of selectmen. It doesn't,
Yeah, I read
Doesn't
it
say the
last night.
seated
I
board.
read it last
It-
night.
Oh, that's
I think it's ambiguous.
well, but if we want to do it the right way. So maybe we need to fix this if it requires just the seated people.
Right.
So is that what you're,
I would recommend that you only have the seated people vote.
yeah,
You can certainly ask the alternates what their preference is, but that would not be binding. It would only be the 5 people
Yeah.
who are seated.
If you go back and read the old
Okay.
minutes,
And actually,
that's where we've done it.
if you,
welcome to the board.
if you have 6 members. Right, you should seat a second alternate, because right now you only have 5 people seated. 1, 2, 3, 4.
that's correct.
5. Oh, no, I'm sorry, you have 6.
We have 6?
Yeah.
You have 6.
3, 4, 5, 6, Bill.
Yeah, Bill, I just did a couple.
More than one. Yeah. No, Madam Chair.
Yeah. Because here it really only has 10 and we actually have 11.
Well, it says 4 alternates.
Bill, you
though.
have 10. Oh, yeah, with Alan, it's 11.
11, because the one officio, ex officio makes
Oh,
11.
that's right. We
So
didn't
it
see
should have
anyone for
7.
Rob.
You did
That's
not
correct.
seat any.
Rod is
So
not.
you should have
I
7.
missed him.
You should have 6, you should have.
I should see
6
someone else.
and ex officio.
6 and an ex officio, so you should seat.
Right, so there's always
You're
7,
right.
always
I
7.
needed to
there's
see
an
someone
odd-
for Rob.
an Odd.
I missed Rob.
Vote.
So Jenny.
You missed Rob.
Can I go back and see someone else?
Jenny, right?
Sure.
Right, Jenny? I'd like to see-
3, 4,
So we'll
5.
just make
So
that-
Jenny will be seated in lieu of Rob. All right,
There you go.
One more
There you
voter.
go. 7
Wow.
votes. and-
Madam Chair,
Margaret.
anybody can nominate, correct?
yes, anyone can nominate.
Yeah.
No, Madam Chair, do you require a nomination for chair? In other words,
Are you
John
asking?
has volunteered. I nominate John Racine. to
I
be
second the nomination.
Right,
John wants to do it, let him do it.
Okay.
John is officially nominated.
Would you like to say anything, John?
chair. We have a nomination and a second.
You have a discussion?
Any discussion? Any other?
I think he's a worthy candidate.
I think so too.
All right, let's vote.
All right. Then discussion is closed and we'll
I-
start the vote.
I move he's accepted by unanimous vote, by acclamation.
We have to.
Okay.
All right, let's start the vote.
Rich Rita, I.
Morgan, I.
My guy,
Nancy, I.
Catherine Brennan, I.
Jenny, I.
Bill Spence, aye.
All right, we have a new chair. Congratulations, John.
Don't miss meetings, no.
Okey doke. The next office is vice chair. Do we have anyone who would love to be vice chair?
you would continue.
I would, but if there's someone else who has their eye on being vice chair,
I nominate Nancy as vice chair.
seconded. Anyone else?
I would do it.
Okay, you guys decide which one to use.
Dragged by your
No, that is, if you're not present. Or if you would like somebody to stand in for you. I would volunteer to be vice chair for you.
Don't think that office exists.
Yeah, that's the
That
secretary.
doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's called the secretary.
Okay, fine. That's
Okay.
it, you're it.
You could be the secretary.
I move
Yeah.
we accept Nancy as vice chair.
I'll second the motion.
All right, any other discussion?
Rich, I.
Morgan, I.
My guy,
Nancy, I.
Catherine, I.
Jenny, I.
Bill, aye.
Okey doke.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
nominate Bill Spence as secretary.
All right.
I second.
I accept.
Thank you, Bill. Anyone else have their eye on that position? Any discussion? All right, let's start.
Rich, aye.
Morgan, I.
My guy.
Nancy, I.
Catherine, I.
Jenny, I. Abstain.
I vote for myself, I don't think.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
You do.
Okay. Bill, I.
You can also vote against yourself.
Congratulations, Bill. Thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Welcome.
All right. Voting done. Okay, public comment. Is this in general?
If anyone has public
Yes.
comment.
Okay.
Michael.
Yes.
We got a public here.
That's the public.
We do have member of the public. And if there's any public on Zoom, I don't think so.
Do we not have Tara anymore?
She wasn't coming today.
Oh, oh no.
Kind
Kind of counting on her today. All right. All right, well, the next order of business, and I hope I have it, are the review of the zoning amendments from the town meeting.
I did print them, so
Oh, good.
you guys don't just have them here.
Do you have a copy of this, Jenny?
Not yet.
Oh, right.
You can have this.
Yeah, and I only have the master plan, because that's when I started. But I mean, a little binder too.
I didn't want to print everything, just in case some people hadn't printed them themselves or whatever, does it digitally, so
Make a copy.
figured I would check in. Whoever wanted. to print it, I would-
One more copy.
Here, well,
John Racine here. I have a question for every. So because I'm on Zoom, am I not allowed to vote?
No, it's because you're not sworn in yet.
You're
John.
not a seated member.
You can't be seated until you get sworn in. We know you're gonna be a member, but you gotta get with Terry and do your oath.
Your
But you
term was up.
Your term was up.
That's all.
But you can say whatever you'd like.
Okay, so my other question is, I'm also an ex officio with the Conservation Commission. So is that something we need to vote on or to reassign or?
No, you're not on the board because you're the ex officio, you're a member of the board. Who happens to also be the liaison with the Conservation Commission. But the Conservation Commission doesn't have, like the Board of Selectmen, an ex officio position on the planning board. You're more like a liaison.
So when I've identified myself throughout the years of doing it, I've always identified myself as an ex officio. Is that wrong?
Yeah, you're a liaison. You're an actual member of the planning board. You're not on the board because you're on the Conservation Commission. You're on the planning board because you are appointed by the select.
But at Conservation Commission meeting, you are the ex officio at that meeting for the planning board.
Correct.
You're
It's
the
the other way
representative.
around. So when you're at a Conservation Commission meeting, you're there because you're a member of the planning.
Understood. Got it.
Actually, John, if I might, Madam Chair, I guess we'll have to keep you as chair because John can't assume it right away. So you can't give him the gavel until,
Love
so I guess you'll have to hang with it for today, but we have a number of alternates and we do have, I think, two planning board committees that the alternates might be interested in knowing about and joining, the CIP committee and the town core working group. Wendy was selected by the select board to be the select board representative to the town core working group, so we should have at least one planning board member on the town core working group.
Well, I'm the,
If it's you,
well, I've been on it, but we could use a second one. We've
So-
always had two.
so two would be, so we should have you and
Yeah. we
if one
should.
of the, some, not necessarily just the alternates, but somebody else wants to. And then we should make sure we have, we could have up to what, 3 planning board members on the CIP, or would not have a quorum,
You want
so.
to explain what the CIP is? I'm not sure that everybody understands.
Well, it's the capital improvement program, I
Program.
believe, not plan, right? And we have two, this is the, this is the program where the planning board, taking recommendations from town staff, looks at the capital requirements of the town, things such as vehicles, buildings, any major
Any major investment.
construction or having to do with the town business. And the way the process works is the CIP gets together on a irregular basis. There are no set meetings. They regularly review the CIP and determine what projects need to be done in what year based on discussions they have in these meetings with town staff. They then bring, towards the end of the year, they then bring their recommendations. For example, they'll be looking at 2024 purchases or programs that the town needs to fund. Right, looking forward to 2024.
24 beyond.
And forward, but for the key for the select board is that they bring to the select board in the fall what programs they think we ought to consider and find a funding mechanism for the 2024 town meeting. And then the select board goes over that as well as look at other programs forward. The select board can move things around. The select board decides on the funding and then decides what it wants to include in the town warrant for the upcoming town meeting. So it's rather important. You may notice that at some of our town meetings, all of our town meetings, it tends to be the capital improvement program issues that spark some discussion. Not just them, but it's because they're big purchases. We have a fire engine we're going to have to purchase soon. We have an ambulance we're going to have to purchase soon. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not close to $1 million for the two of those, I think. Where did Mark go? But plus other things, the dredging of Corcoran Pond, and so forth. So road repair, buildings, all that sort of stuff. So it's an important position. So we can have up to 3 planning board members. Other town residents can participate, or other individuals can participate, but we can only have up to 3 planning board members because once you hit 4, you're a quorum and they become an official planning board meeting.
Is it just Nancy right now?
Well, I'm talking about the CIP. I think it's,
The town core.
so Bill, I think you're on the CIP,
I am.
and are you on the CIP? You were, I'm not sure.
I would volunteer to be on the CIP.
I would too.
So we need,
The person is Rob.
is Rob on the CIP?
Yes.
So we have 2, but we don't know if Rob wants to remain on it. So we should pick somebody at least. Well, we don't have to select now. We can wait and
There's
Query.
no hurry.
query
Rob.
Rob and see if we need, well, we definitely need 1 more, would be nice. 2, if Rob decides he doesn't want to be on the CIP. So that's the CIP, and you can better describe the town core working group.
Yeah, the town core, they're the ones that produced the pedestrian village study that was done. Oh, God.
Go 11 years ago.
Oh, my God. I think so.
Yeah, it's about 10, I think it was 10
10 years.
ago, yeah.
It feels like just yesterday.
Yeah,
And then we've been working to implement as much of it as we can ever since. Trying to improve the core of the town, and develop it the way we believe it should be developed. Based on the town master plan and the pedestrian study. And so the committee includes, a lot of people from the mountain and from the town, business people. So yeah, we need 1 more person. I guess we can.
yeah, I don't think the
have
town
2 more
core
people.
working group has a, a
You know what,
set
it would be
number.
great, actually, it would be great to have 2 more people so that we have 2
Yeah.
people from the planning board.
Yeah, those are the 2 standing committees that we have, and this is where you get like discussions about roads and signs and trails and what are we gonna do to complete the loop around Corcoran Pond, and so that gets the input of the some of the other major players, stakeholders, businesses.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because,
Yeah,
you know, you get
it
to
is.
hear what changes are gonna happen and kind of put your 2 cents in.
I would be interested in that.
Yeah, I would as well. No one else wants to.
Okay. We have you for that and it sounds like,
Morgan,
Figure it out next
yeah,
week, next
we have
month.
2 people who are interested in the
That's everyone.
CIP.
Right. Meet once a month.
Yes, I should say that. So there's a standing meeting on Tuesdays at 12:30 once a month. There's no meeting this month. There is next month. I think the 9th.
the second Tuesdays,
I think
the
so,
second
yeah.
Tuesday of the month.
Second two,
Yeah, the 9th is the second Tuesday in May.
and they're just here.
No, it's not necessarily here. Where do you guys,
Yes.
you do it here?
Yeah,
Okay, 'cause I,
yeah,
that's right. That's because we had to be out of here. We were meeting in another place.
yeah. And Wendy has led that and she's gonna continue to as board person. So. Right? Okay,
There are also ad hoc committees that come up for some of the new folks here, but we populate them as they come up. And any planning board member can recommend, hey, I'd like to get together a committee to look at an issue. It's up to the chair of the board to decide whether he or she wants to go forward with that and put it out for a discussion.
yeah, we've had a lot of ad hoc committees come up. And when we redid the 10-year plan, which took us 3 years. Everyone was on a committee for various chapters. It was a lot of work. So hopefully we've got another 9 years before we have to do that again. Oh, no. Okay,
There's enough to do.
all right. Any other,
No, I just
Great
popped
idea.
in my head. Thanks to
Yeah,
John.
no.
Thank you, John.
that was fantastic. Okay. All right, so these, we had 4 zoning amendments up for vote. I think that's the 4th one failed, so these are the 3 that passed.
There was 3.
There were 3.
There were three.
Third one.
There were
Yeah,
3.
that's what I said. We had 3 that passed.
No,
No.
2 that
Three
passed.
total.
1 and 2.
2, 3
1 and 2
failed.
passed, 3 failed.
Wait, I thought 3 passed.
No.
3 failed. The definition of concert,
Failed.
that one failed. The other 2 passed. Amendment 1 and
Correct.
Amendment 2.
Amendment 1 and 2 passed, amendment 3 failed.
Oh,
What?
okay, so I misread it.
It was just a copy of them,
Right.
in case someone didn't have them. That'll be available. What we voted on.
So town staff will be making the changes to the zoning. For amendments 1 and 3.
Right.
Political advertising that passed.
Correct.
Article 1. This passed.
The definition of place of worship.
Concert failed.
Concert failed.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I misunderstood that because I read art 3 and your note passed, but I didn't read carefully that it's political signs. You. All right. That's what I get for skimming it. Is there any discussion that we really need to have?
So the select board is still interested in trying to come to some sort of definition on concert or maybe approach it another way. I had a very pleasant conversation with one of the opponents of it, and he reiterated that he could support a definition that included numbers, something we discussed a lot. We-
Discussed and
but-
decided that was.
Right,
not-
but I told him I would let the board know that that was still his position if we wanted to move forward on it. I had a very brief conversation some time ago with Tara, and there may be another way to approach this, looking at like accessory and special exception. That was the nub of the issue last summer that the select board was wrestling with. To try to determine whether a particular musical event, where it fell as a special event and then as a, whether it was accessory or whether it was governed as an accessory or whether it was governed as a special exception permit.
But if it's a special exception, does it have to go before the ZBA?
It does. And that's,
That's a big hassle though, isn't it?
it is, and it costs money.
Wouldn't anyone who has a business here not like that idea?
Probably not, but again, it depends what the permitted use is as to where it falls. Whether it's accessory to the permitted use or whether it's a special exception because it's not allowed or it's not under that permitted use. Not allowed in the zone or not under that permitted use. So that's the way we approached it, but Margaret, you can.
I have a question.
Let me just, Margaret, you were on the select board then and please speak up. We were really looking at the definition of concert. That came in later when we approached town council about how to do this. And he said, well, first you need to get a definition of council before you worry about clarifying accessory and special exception.
Yeah.
And that's why we brought it to the planning board.
And what was, refresh my memory, on recreation land, was there any definition about concert?
No,
No, concert wasn't defined, but was a concert allowed on recreational?
as a special event. I mean, I'd have to look.
As by special?
Yeah, it wasn't a separate,
Which means they have.
no, a special, a special event, right? Yeah, so,
I think
yeah.
the first step that council wanted us to do was get a definition.
Right.
So when it happened, we knew whether or not it applied.
right. But the point that Margaret makes is absolutely crucial to this because most people saw what we had recommended concert and thought it applied separately as a separate use, a concert in various zones, when in fact, the only time concert is mentioned in the zoning ordinance is under special event as an example of a special event in rec. So it doesn't govern,
The example,
homes
the
or-
example, as I understand it,
Right.
as I reread everything, is that, for example, if if the, and let's use David's land instead of picking on somebody else. If we wanted to have a concert, a performance down in the area,
if the owner of that
the
property,
owner of that property wanted to have a
right,
musical event,
right,
which was down in that area,
Right.
down by the river, for some reason, if they wanted to do that, they would have to go through this as it stands now. However, if the resort wanted to have an event in the village, all right, because the village is not rec land, it would not apply to them as written. That's what I understood it.
if it wasn't on rec land, if it's in a commercial zone, then
Commercial zone in the
It's-
village, it would
Right.
not apply to them. That's the way
Wasn't
I
allowed.
read it.
well, you have to look at the use table
Yeah.
and see what the use table says. Right, but I think rather than going over and
Well, I think,
litigating all of that, I think there are two points here. One is we didn't do a great job in communicating to the public what the definition was for. Most people read it as a concert anywhere in town and would require. And there were stories told about, well, if I wanted to get a two-piece band together at my house, I'd have to get a
Yeah,
planning board's approval, which is wrong on
That's not why. yeah.
two.
I can address that for a moment.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I did keep some of the material that was
Mhm.
propagated on Facebook. And through, because this addresses another matter, which was the warrant that was proposed by the planning board was defeated. And it's in a manner similar to the defeat of the warrant to modify the zoning ordinance to allow smaller house construction. That was about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That when political action was mounted, foster negative opinion toward the warrants and urging voters to vote no. So much of the negative and sentiment toward these two warrants was produced by social media and by email, delivering what I term to be misinformation.
Yep.
And that the Facebook News and Views thread portrayed the planning board action as a move to restrict or prevent musical concerts in Waterville Valley. As an example, one of the paragraphs on the Facebook site was, please support all your local business owners by voting no on Article 4. Article 4 broadly defined as, and it's there. This definition would require every live music performance indoors or outdoors, no matter how small or how small the audience, to require planning board approval.
Ugh.
That none of these claims are accurate or true. And then Craig sent out an SMS message
Yeah.
to all of the people that are on his
I got
list
it.
voting no, because in his view, the warrant was intended to prohibit the business from producing musical concerts. Not accurate, but this is the type of information that is being distributed.
Right.
So in my view, that the planning board, if it wants to succeed with presenting warrants, which are accepted by voters, would have to get out in front of misinformation and negative campaigning with a message of its own. That is, we have to get into this business of issuing what we believe to be true and accurate and the reasoning behind the warrants that the planning board proposes. Otherwise, we're going to go down to defeat
Yeah.
against this again and again.
And the other thing that happened because of my injury, I wasn't allowed, I couldn't get actually to physically vote. But it's my understanding, based on discussions with people that did go there, is that there was politicking, for lack of a better word, actually at the voting place. Craig was there telling.
This
people.
is also true, yes.
Wait,
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Not to regress too much, but what was the discussion about if it was clear with having a number? I'm just throwing, let's say that if it was something that was, over 100 people or whatever the number is, I don't know. There was some discussion about
We had
that.
long
but
discussions about that.
But what was the downside of putting a number? I'm not saying that that's the right number. I'm just saying that more parameters.
yeah, I think
What was the
Wendy
downside?
sort
Yeah.
of
Number now.
like distilled it down to say like, if she can't play saxophone and she wants to play saxophone on Packard's Field and nobody shows up, is it still a concert? That's why the number,
And how do you count? Who does the counting?
Right, that
What
was the issue.
happens?
Who's gonna count it?
and if you
And-
don't have admission,
And
if you're not
if,
selling
how do
tickets.
you do it? Pre this, in other words, you're sitting here saying, I'm only gonna have, and use your number of 100. I'm only gonna have 100 people there. If 101 show up, are you now in violation? So the question, it all depends.
Right,
fact-
And then
but I
the other matter is, if only 99 show up, it's not a concert,
Right, so
so.
it got into a,
Right.
The idea was to try to keep it as general as possible, so as not to put undue burden on businesses or town staff for that matter, when this issue came up. Remember, we're talking about a very small sliver here. We're talking about special recreational and entertainment events. And they can occur, they can occur in other zones.
Right.
They can occur in other zones. So
Yeah.
we were trying to define
Yeah.
what a concert is as a special entertainment and recreational event. So
But
that's
wouldn't,
what,
yeah, but wouldn't the restriction kick in if it was a large number? Versus if it's just me going and playing on the field, that's not a concert, and I'm certainly not, whatever the number is gonna attract, because that's not my intention, but if I'm somebody that wanted to have a concert on the 13 acres. I wanted to have the next Coachella up here or whatever, and I'm saying, you know what, I'm gonna have over 100 people, or that's my hope, then I would need to come and go do X, Y, and Z. I don't know, it just seems like it wouldn't be restrictive if the number was. Something
this
that,
is
whatever
what we
the
need
number
to
is gonna
discuss.
impact the town or need town resources, I guess, to use, I don't know if that makes sense.
I think part of the problem with the definition that's proposed is that. One of our business owners definitely has a musical performance in front of a live audience associated with offering dinner.
And drinks.
And drinks every weekend.
Mhm.
It is advertised in advance to the members,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
And that has never been, if that's been regarded as an accessory use.
well, it's regarded as not a special recreation
Right,
or
right.
entertainment.
So
Right.
when this came up last year, what happened that was different is that it was going to be a band and there were going to be tickets sold.
Okay.
That was different than doing something
To entertain
ostensibly for
diners.
the members as,
Mhm.
as, an accessory use of
Right.
what was already there. So what, I think what the planning board is trying to address is distinguishing that regular use that goes with from a big entertainment event.
Can I make a suggestion? We spent an incredible amount of time. Right? I think this is something that we need a breakout committee. To do in the next 60 to 90 days. To come back with a modified suggestion. All right, as to what we think it should be, otherwise, we're just gonna keep going round and around and around. And let's figure out what we suggest. I mean, how much time did we spend on this last year? A lot.
Well, we have a lot of time. I mean, this is not gonna come back up until
Yeah.
town meeting. Because it's a zoning amendment with we're trying to
Well,
change,
right,
add a
we
definition.
have 8 months, because it would have to be done by December, January.
It's gonna come up if there's a special event.
It is gonna come up this
It
summer.
is, we're in the same boat. I mean, the select board is gonna be in.
Yes, yeah,
Well,
nothing's
right,
changed.
but not, we weren't able to provide clarification, but this also gets, I think, to Tara's point that maybe we also need to look at accessory and special exception because people were confused about what that meant as well. Yeah, I think we ought to give it another go and see what we can do. It may be,
Well, people are also
combination
confused.
of-
People are also confused what zones apply to what. Which is
Right.
Kind of what you're saying.
well,
'Cause they are different by zone.
well, we need to
That's
have
the point I was
a
trying to
better
make, that
public.
we should make use of Facebook and our own methods of distributing information. We have to be in the political business. Because if we're not, then the people who oppose and those who are, have misunderstood what
Well,
this is all
you're
about.
you're saying it nicely.
I
Yeah.
think, that, we didn't
Oh, yeah.
anticipate, we did not, we thought that just putting a definition
But
and
it also happened once before.
yes, we didn't,
It was
that's true, but this
political
time
action that
we didn't
brought it
think we
down.
needed
Right.
to. On that other case, we did have a public hearing, a lot of people attended, we tried to explain what we thought. Having smaller lot sizes would be beneficial for that area. People heard that and the opponents carried the day. In this case, we we had public hearings on it, we discussed it, but there weren't any attendees except
But that,
one or two.
that comes back to this question that says. It's a warrant item, which means December, January, it has to be finalized by us and the select board. But if we're gonna actually have a suggested amount, open it up to the public, take what they say and change it. We don't really have 8 months, we really have 3 or
Yeah.
4 months to decide that which we want to do. We can do it around the table, or we can get a group of. I was gonna say 3 or 4, it can't be 4. I was gonna say.
Well, you could have three, and then if you want to invite. other
You could
people
have
in.
3 and invite people in. And come back in. I was saying 60 to 90 days. And then have very specific suggestions.
Can I take a step back?
Huh?
This is something that kind of puzzled me. So concerts are allowed and they're allowed. They're mentioned, yes. So we've got a table here. I mean, I don't know if you guys are. So let's just take a step back. We've got this table in the zoning. And basically it mentions concerts once. And the zoning table talks about allowed things. And it's very specific that you can't use any lot in any zoning district in Waterville Valley except hereinafter specifically allowed. So what this table says is that concerts are specifically allowed in VC, C1, SC, and rec and snows. So it's saying in rec, concerts are allowed. So all we were doing is saying, well, what's a concert? We
Right.
just wanted to define what a concert was.
Yes, it's
We
such a
weren't
simple
saying-
matter,
We weren't saying anything about,
whether it's allowed or not allowed.
yes, we weren't saying anything about the dividing point at which you needed, and this is, I think, what you guys actually need, which is the dividing point at which you need to go from allowed to the special
How it's
exception.
allowed either as an accessory or a special
Yeah,
exception.
so
Right.
that's the thing that we were completely missing from, like, we didn't really do that. We need to say, like, here's the allowed concert and here's the special exception concert. Like, where's the dividing point between when are neighbors gonna be worried about the noise or the crowd or like parking.
That was
control.
Tara's recommendation.
Right, so we need that dividing point, which we didn't even tackle in the definition, so I don't even think we did what we should have done.
Okay.
Though, I think we just kind of missed the whole point, and I don't think anybody really understood what we were doing even.
Yeah,
So,
just to chime in as someone who is just a member of the public and have no skin in any of this game at all. This is what it appeared to Joe Public. Craig had a concert. Craig has issues with the planning board and the select board on quite a regular basis. All of a sudden, we need to define concert, blah, 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 blah. So it looks like a hit job on Craig. And so that's what the general public took away from this, and I think
Right.
that's a big part of why it went downtown.
But how did they come to the conclusion that it's a hit job? on Craig?
Exactly, because.
It's because the opponents, Craig being one of them, got out there and participated in the political process.
I think it was the
And the
timing
planning board
too.
said nothing.
Yeah, it was the timing that you brought
Well-
this up like immediately after this happened, so it was just kind of.
Yeah, this sort of
Blinders went on everyone and.
forensic examination is useful to figure out how to go.
and
Or-
I would- and
Get used to the
we
idea
should be
that-
clear that it's not, and we
Right.
Yeah.
actually support and encourage Craig's business, and we want him to do
Right.
well.
And how
we-
you just described
Yeah.
what is so enlightening, that that's all that people needed to
Right.
know and should have known, but no
But-
one knew that.
Well, because
I
we didn't do a good job.
Got kind
We didn't
of
do it.
befuddled, and I think part of the problem is we did it so close to the end, we didn't have time to kind of enlighten people, and I think that's what makes it similar to the housing issue, is that we laid it on the public too late to really handle, like, because we didn't understand what people thought and what people heard after what we said, because we didn't say it in the way people understood.
Not only what they heard, but it's the misinformation that they were fed.
Well, but we didn't get out there ahead of time.
That's because they didn't hear it the way we intended it,
Right.
and that's on us, I think, honestly. It is on
I'm
us.
for that. I'm saying that we need to
But
participate in this process fully.
The board
We need to start
specifically said when Mr. Larson was attending the meeting, that this definition of concert does not apply to your weekend musical events, because we consider that not a special, you gotta go through several, not a special entertainment or recreational event, but rather that is, so it doesn't come under this.
He didn't hear that.
No,
We're defining an allowed use.
We were defining it as an accessory use to a golf
You're right.
clubhouse.
But he
I think
didn't
we
hear
need
that.
So,
a more sophisticated definition of concert so that we can kind of lay out all the different ways. I think we just need to be clear and say, look, like live music, whatever it is, the performance, any sort of thing, like here's all the ways people see it. And, here's the stuff that's under allowed, and here's the stuff that's special exception. And I just think, okay, maybe we have to use a lot more words. We
we may have, there are two things going on. We were trying to, I think, serve two masters, and we didn't do a good job, and we didn't advertise well. The two masters were, one with the town council, which says you really need to define concert, because you have it in your zoning use table, but nowhere do you define what it is, and that's
Right.
not a good thing. You could be challenged legally. So you need to do that. And then we have our professional planner, Tara, telling us what you really need to do is look at accessory / special exception, because that is the way, which you were saying, Nancy, that needs to be clarified so people understand. So it's a combination of both, and we didn't do a good job, whether doesn't matter, whether what you think about the information that was put out, obviously, we didn't do a good job because it failed. That's the bottom line. So we need to, the select board, I think, still would like the planning board to tackle this, whether you come at it as a concert or whether you come at it or come at it as an accessory special use as a special recreational and education, entertainment event. Come up with something, because this summer, the select board could potentially be faced with the same issue. An event that
Yeah.
may fall under this category, and it may consider a concert, and then, but which, is it an accessory or is it a special exception permit required by the ZBA? And that was in that case last summer, that was the decision of the select board, that this sounded like a special exception permit was required.
Shouldn't we be defining everything that's A/SE? Otherwise,
Yes,
Mark?
It is defined in your definition.
It is.
Under uses on page 9.
Page 9, okay.
There is
That's nice.
an accessory use is a use customarily incidental and accessory to the principal use located on the same lot. And that's
There's a bird.
that's a definition from the state statute. It's the normal planning board definition of accessory use. And if it's not an accessory use, then it would need to be approved under special exception.
By the ZBA. But that's, it's marked the circular route, because that now goes back to the definition of concert.
Well, right, no, what was missing was,
But that's a terrible definition, because, so then the guy throws 12 5,000 person concerts, and all of a sudden it's a normal use and he doesn't need a permit.
no, not at all, no, if. Like the examples, the two examples that we have going on right now. Is at the golf clubhouse. The weekly entertainment for the
Right.
patrons of the restaurant.
Or in Town Square.
Or, well, yeah, that's the other one.
Yeah.
But those
Oh,
two
that's different.
things are accessory uses, that's what the selectmen have said. Those things are accessory uses because they're part of the primary use.
Of the property.
On the property.
They're not special entertainment or recreational events.
Right now, what the selectmen said last year,
Mhm.
the only standard that we have right now is. If you advertise it in advance and sell tickets. That's a concert. Okay, and then you would have to come to these definitions. And under that case, because it's not accessory to the primary use, it would need a special exception. All we were trying to do with the definition was to make it clearer when it went to special exception.
Right. And I think the thing that was missing here, in my view. Is not just advertised in advance. But has a monetary value assigned to it. So for example, your two examples, in neither case. Is there a monetary admission price, if you
you
will?
talk about ticket price.
But you see, this is where you start
Yeah.
going down the wrong
It's
path.
a great sound.
I know, but
No, this
that's.
is where you go down the wrong path, because these examples do not come under special entertainment or that's the first hoop you have to go through. These examples are accessory use to business operations.
Right.
That's a different thing altogether. And we don't even, concerts are only defined in this special entertainment and recreation use
Yeah.
category. So that was the hoop you have to go through. So that's where it's convoluted, and we ourselves
It is,
get mixed up.
we have, this is the.
But monetary is not gonna fix it for the special.
You may be right, but I mean,
Right.
my issue here is that. What we tried to do is make this simple. And and Nancy, don't laugh at me.
No, we did. No, you're right. We tried to make it a very general.
The irony, because.
The irony is,
We tried.
it should be simple, but it's not.
Well,
And,
it really was.
well, no, the answer,
In my opinion,
the answer is it should be.
right,
But it's.
but it wasn't perceived as.
But because there's misinterpretation, we cannot make it simple. It has to be very
Clear.
clearly defined. And as my friend Nancy said, instead of having this be a 20-word item This may turn into a 50 or 75 word item.
I don't know.
Well, it's
but-
part of the
but-
reason why lawyers
Explain
exist.
it
Well,
better.
We have to somehow explain
Yeah.
it better. And I think we need to get
I don't know.
a group together of us and invited guests, invited participants, to draft something that is going to be acceptable to whomever, and make sure we open it up for discussion and properly advertise that which we have said, which we didn't do.
if I could make
All of
two,
this has to be done under the understanding that, under the rules of social media, anything goes. You
so,
can say anything you want on social media. It
Not
doesn't
the
have to be true, doesn't
You know,
have to be correct.
if people are gonna say what they're gonna say, I mean, you can, we can only do so much. We have to do a better job of
Okay, from
advertising.
our point of view.
whatever-
from the board's point of
whatever
view,
our
what we
amendments
have
are.
to present has to be true and correct.
Correct.
So if I could
Fighting
make two,
against an uphill battle, we gotta do a much better job of presenting our point of view.
Correct.
so 2 points, Madam Chair, if I can. One is, I would defer making a decision on how to approach this. First, if this planning board wants to approach it, the select board would still like the planning board to approach it, but
Yeah.
the planning board can also tell the select board, sorry, we can't. We know, you're on your own on this one, you know.
It was to define the damn thing.
Well, but I think, but I
It needs
mean,
to be
I would,
defined.
I
It is
would,
our job. to
I,
define
It is our-
I think
that's
so.
Our job was to define it.
I would defer a decision whether to handle this in the full planning board or as a separate ad hoc committee to when the new chair is seated so that he can decide
Okay.
how he would like to approach this. I think that gives everyone a chance to think about it too.
I don't know.
Be another way of approaching it. And so that's my suggestion.
All right, so we'll add that to his list.
Give it to John to worry about.
All right,
You know, I'm not seated, but I would be happy to work on a committee to get this clarified.
Yeah.
making
And I-
John's life easier.
And I think that would be great
And I would.
as the emerita,
Yeah.
right?
And
Select board
I'll be
emerita.
happy- and I'll be happy to join Margaret.
So that somebody could talk to Craig without him swearing at me.
Well, that's, and I have the same situation. We have a good relationship. You know, we have a very good relationship with Craig as
But
well.
no, yeah, exactly. There are, and it does affect more than one group.
No, it does,
You
but,
know, I
but
think
he
that-
is, and as well as the other prime movie here, well, I think, well, it doesn't matter. We have to get this resolved and it is in my view, this is our job.
But even if we don't do a definition, we can provide guidance to the code enforcement officer as to what represents an accessory use and what
Right.
represents
A special
Yeah.
a
exception.
special exception
exception
with
for-
respect to outdoor concerts.
Right.
And I don't think we need to get that defined in order to do that, do
I think that was Tara's approach was
we?
to,
I'm sorry Tara's not here, but Mark, do you know, can we put examples in the definition or is that not a good idea?
It's not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
No.
You need to try to define it.
Right.
But there's
Understand.
nothing that says that the planning board could not issue something saying, this is what our intent is with respect to outdoor concerts.
and that's what the select board needs, so that if the issue comes up, if someone brings it to the select board's attention, that this event's occurring and we're not clear whether what's allowed.
I have a
Select
question.
board has background to refer to from the planning board, what their intent was.
I have a question for Margaret, because you used a word that I don't think we had previously used, which was outdoor.
That's what it says.
It's in-
No, I know that's what it says.
Yeah.
I had a problem with that terminology. Because does that mean if somebody puts up a big tent, it doesn't apply? So when I read that,
It's outdoors.
Make it your.
Yeah, but.
I think they use sort of a reasonable standard, reasonable
You know,
person
it's-
standard in that event.
it's-
Otherwise, you end up
I
defining
know what
everything.
You're saying, I read it as well.
What is a tent? I mean, you can, yeah. Yeah.
Simply developing a document that gives advice to our code enforcement officer as
Yes,
to the planning board's interpretation of outdoor concert as defined in page 19.
Yeah.
There. This is what an accessory use is. this is, you know, first of all, an outdoor concert is something that is outside, including under a tent, if you need that.
No, I'm just saying,
You
You
can
know,
put it in the arena.
That's a great catch.
It-
Mark, should we
it-
have
it-
defined outdoor concert, not just concert?
it
After all,
goes-
it's not just a concert.
it goes, Nancy, it goes round and around and around and around.
Well, no, it
That's what
doesn't.
says on-
No.
It was an example. It was just meant
We
to
have in
be-
here outdoor concert, not concert. So why are we defining just concert? There's no just concert anywhere in here.
I think that could be taken up by. There is one other place, but it's, again, it's like the theaters. A theater you'd
I
expect
did
a
I did a
concert.
global search. I didn't see.
Is it, there's not one under theater,
I didn't find one.
Let's see.
but you're right. I mean, the only one that we're talking about is the special recreational or,
It's in the definition of theater.
yeah, that's what I think. What is
Right.
this? That's where I saw it.
It's just saying that that's what could happen inside a
The
theater.
theater,
It's in
right.
definition,
Those are the only
not
two
allowed.
instances where it's mentioned,
So
Right.
really, what we need to do is define
right?
outdoor concert,
Right.
not even concert. Thereby eliminating
Sure.
a lot of what was mentioned before about the musicians at dinner, because nobody was eating dinner in that room outdoors. So that just negates so much of the.
It could be it. It could be a simpler way of approaching it. Again, I recommend we just think about it and defer it and decide next
All right.
meeting.
So we'll talk about it next meeting.
Yeah.
We at least have 2 volunteers for a committee that may or may not.
It unfortunately is not as simple as we had thought and or hoped.
Okay,
All Bill Spencer's fault.
and
Chairman of social media. All right, Madam Chair,
Yeah.
is there another item? Could I propose another item for discussion?
having to do with the amendments passed at the, or something.
It has
like
to
that.
do with the use table of the zoning ordinance.
Oh, sure.
And that the matter that I wish to bring before the board is that in the zoning ordinance, I'm talking about animals for recreational use. In the zoning order does not specify, what it does specify is that animals for recreational use on recreational property are,
What page?
I don't know, on my computer.
Page
Right-
9.
Right
Yeah,
there.
pages.
Page 19,
Okay.
last thing under recreation.
It says over a period of 8 weeks. But it does not specify what 8 weeks, that is it 8 weeks per year, is it 8 weeks per
That's it.
season, is it whatever it is? And in discussion with others, that is with Terry and with Wendy.
Oh.
It was
So
the
this is-
intention of the board at the time, to the best of their recollection, was that the 8 weeks applied per year. However, the zoning ordinance doesn't state that.
So from a code enforcement perspective, looking at the select board, the select board would look back, try to find out what was in the record. If in the record it said it was meant to be, the discussion was a calendar year, then it would know how to approach it from a code enforcement. If it's unclear from the record, then you could also fix this. I guess what I'm going a long way of saying is it may not require a zoning amendment, right? If it's already the intent in the record that the 8 weeks apply to a calendar year, this is not a zoning amendment. This is clarification of language in a use table.
For right now, that would take care of it, but I certainly would go.
We gotta check.
back. Well,
right.
no, let's go back and amend it to meet whatever the intent was.
Oh, okay.
If it means 8 weeks per year. Because that was, and this discussion was specifically for the horse carriages. During the winter, the sleigh rides. That's where this 8 weeks came from. It was during the winter.
Was it continuous 8 weeks or was it just,
It was a continuous 8
Right.
weeks, but. Whether the board also wanted that to apply, like, if you did it for 8 weeks in the winter, you couldn't do it any in the summer, or if they wanted to allow, that's what we would have to clarify.
right, okay.
Yeah, that's a good
So-
catch. You're right. Why
But this
would we
is,
want it
this
somewhere?
wording specifically came up when it was proposed to have the temporary horse facility in the parking lots. And then to provide the sleigh rides over the winter. Remember, the guy didn't want to bring the horse.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I remember when.
And that's over 2 separate calendar years
And it
too,
was over 2 separate calendar years because it was
the winter season, yeah. So we probably do need to
Nevertheless,
fix it
matter
anyway.
came up in
Yeah.
discussions in reference to the 13.5 acres.
Right,
It did,
that's right. And
That if the 13.5 acres we missed by one vote. If the 13.5 acres had been applied or had been purchased. Or permission granted to purchase the land for the town, this would be an issue, but now that it could be purchased for private interest. It's definitely gonna become,
yeah, we need to clarify it for sure. It's gonna be a nightmare to enforce. Unless we know exactly what we're talking with 8 weeks.
we need to do it now. Or
Now, that is something that is, I just wanted clarification in my tiny brain. That is not something, since it's in our document, it is not something that has to be approved by the town. It is exclusively has to be done by us. Is
We
that
need to
correct?
clarify.
But
if it's just a clarification,
It's just a
but what Mark
clarification.
is saying is we
It is
should
done
probably.
here, not by town. Is that
But
correct?
Mark is saying we should move it as an amendment. Once we clarify it, just so that it's clear to everybody in the use table what we're talking about.
But it is done here, not by town.
If it's an amendment, it has to be a town vote.
Yes,
So right now,
Okay.
the Board of Selectmen have to interpret. Either by going back into the records and seeing what the intent was. But right now, the selectmen have to decide whether this is 8 weeks per year, 8 weeks per season. However, they want to define it because it's not defined. Okay. I mean, the planning board can give some intent ideas to the select board, but right now it's in the select board's hands to say this is 8 weeks
Yeah.
per whatever.
So the first instance should be to find out what the intent was, so that the select board can follow that intent until we
Until you can get it amended.
amend it, so that's clear for to everybody looking at
If
this
the amendment would come at town meeting.
Town meeting.
24.
24, so. Yeah, that would be something the select board would like, the intent clarified on what this 8-week period is. So someone needs to go back in the planning board or needs to go back and look at the history.
Okay, we'll add that to the list.
I think that's secretary. And then start looking through.
Yeah, it's a secretary, it's right, it's a records, it's a records, it's a records issue, right? It's a records issue.
I'll just need a list of stuff.
So it's not only a records issue. Where they look back, it is also one that we have to do. Regardless of what we have previously said, we have to see if that is what we still
Oh,
believe.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
for your amendments.
Yeah.
During the year, this year to put forward in town meeting in March.
So that's something we should add to our goals of
Yeah.
list.
As a zoning
Yes,
amendment
that's on our
change.
list of
secretary.
things
Right.
To clarify, we need to add wording no matter what. Make it clear to the public what we intend,
Right,
even if we go back and see
Right.
what we meant,
Okay, and
Right.
then
no one else
see
will
if-
know,
So see what we meant and see if that's what we still mean.
yeah. Yeah, because who knows what we meant. It probably never came up. I don't know if anyone's ever tried to have horses here in the summer, not since.
I can remember horseback riding in the summer.
Sure, we used to do
Long
it down
time
at
ago.
the front, down by the front line. There used to be as stables down there long ago.
Yeah.
Mark,
All right, so
is that right, Margaret? You
then
remember?
there is.
Yeah, but I thought
historical
that was the
research.
horses that were pulling sleigh in the winter. I don't ever remember summer.
Yeah, but they
horses.
would,
I remember, yeah, you could, I remember doing it with my daughter, putting her up on a horse and
Sure.
take her around the town.
Wow,
yeah,
But this is going back.
that goes back 20-25 years.
okey doke.
30, 40 years,
30
maybe,
or
30 or 40
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
Yeah,
Cause
Yeah,
I remember it back
yeah.
in,
Do you remember it? Oh,
I
okay.
remember it.
But this was more this was the context was the guy who wanted to bring
Yes.
the horses out,
For this lane.
right, for this language.
Right,
the winter sleigh rides.
but there were wussies down there at that end.
Okay, so the secretary will give us all the details and then we'll make the decision on what we do.
Yeah, and let the select board know what your intent is, so that if it comes up this year,
Yeah, that,
we will know how to
it's good
interpret
to
it.
know the history, but regardless, we need to think about what we intend for the future. 'Cause
Oh, yeah.
That's really what we're about.
Yeah, you can change
What we
it.
want
There's
for the
select, the
future.
planning board can change.
Are there any other top of mind, anyone?
There were a few, I think, that, did we list them out in the last few meetings? There's some, what was the one? There was one we didn't get to because it's very complicated.
Lighting, the dark sky.
Dark sky.
Yeah,
there was a
yeah,
dark-
that was.
But, yeah, oh, and I know what I was thinking of. It was, the concern that, C1 property and VC property, what's left of them, will be, we won't see any commercial construction because there are multifamily homes allowed in those zones. And I think we deferred to this year discussing whether we wanted to address that issue as a board.
Right,
There's some strong feelings in town.
Well, and with the housing grant is the actual intent of the grant is to help you design language for the regulations on housing. So this is a good time to bring that back up and decide how you're gonna use it. Or how you're gonna deal with it.
Okay,
That was the other zoning amendment. That's gonna be very controversial and
there was not a lot
And-
left other than behind us, I don't think.
there's something else.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I don't know where else.
Dark
it would
skies
be.
is gonna take a long.
Dark skies is gonna be nasty. too.
Yeah,
Can make another humble suggestion, and that is that bound to be discussion about the vote that took place during town meeting to allow construction on Sunday.
That was the noise
That's
issue.
correct,
is that more of a select board issue?
yeah, we've
I
been,
think
we've been
it is.
addressing it on the select
but there
board.
is, noise ordinance in the zoning ordinances.
Oh,
Yeah,
And whether or not that is well defined.
is it?
I don't know, they're all looking at each
Is
other.
that
Well, it's a select board ordinance
It's not.
Yeah, it's not
no,
us.
It's a town ordinance separate.
from the zoning, right? It's a different, right? And what the select board decided actually at yesterday's select board meeting was to, and there'll be some literature passed out, and posted about the new, noise ordinance that came out of town meeting, following the vote of, town. Sunday's, construction activity, I'm sorry, I'm gonna rephrase, here's again when we get, we're not prohibiting construction activity. It's unreasonable noise,
unreasonable noise.
on Sundays. So the restriction on noise, unreasonable on Sunday, does not apply, okay, on Sundays. Just like it doesn't apply Monday through Saturday, we're treating Sunday like Saturday, which is 9 AM to 7 PM. So it allows construction activity, which can be heard from adjoining properties, because that was the vote at town meeting. The select was gonna have this all laid out for everybody, and probably sometime in June, maybe late May, we'll have a public hearing, say, okay, people, do you still wanna go down this route with Sundays? If not, we can hold a special town meeting and revisit this issue. So that's how the select board is approaching it. As far as federal holidays are concerned, the select board selected 10 holidays where the unreasonable noise restriction will still apply, federal holidays. 2 were left open for normal construction activity.
Okay, I will tell you,
Juneteenth and Columbus Day, I think were the 2.
Oh, that's
Veterans
not a
Day,
great idea.
Maybe Veterans Day.
Veterans Day, the select
Two people
board
of color
decided that not to allow
That just seems like.
unreasonable, so gotta be careful how you phrase this, right? To
I think
that
we
the
should-
unreasonable noise standard would apply on Veterans Day.
Can you repeat the 2 holidays that aren't included?
So normal construction activity, can I put it that way, instead of trying to do double negative and
Yeah.
confuses everybody? So no, like whether it's a Monday or a Tuesday or whatever, are Juneteenth and Columbus Day.
Yeah.
Because we were directed, the select board was directed to select federal holidays where normal construction activity, and I'm just shorthanding it here, can occur. And out of the 12 federal holidays, or 11,
Who
12,
instructed you to do that?
town meeting.
Town meeting instructed two, and you picked the two.
No, they instructed them to just choose which federal holidays they want to apply, and they
And you
decided
decided to
to
eliminate
just
two.
leave out two.
No, okay, no, you have to flip that around. So prior to it, right, we didn't allow any activity
Right.
that could result in unreasonable noise on all federal holidays.
Right.
Which there are 10 or 11, I'm getting confused. 11. And that was our position at town meeting. However, an amendment from the floor, which passed, said that the select board should consider allowing normal construction activity on some holidays. We leave it to the select board to determine what holidays to pick.
I disagree with that. I think they said we want a clarified list because it's a little confusing trying to figure out which are the actual federal holidays. So they asked the select board to just clarify the list of federal.
What is?
Yes.
So
They didn't say that.
They didn't
negate
say.
any
they might be able
holidays.
to Work on
And
it.
I really am.
Yeah, Columbus Day.
Uh,
Columbus Day is a huge thing going on in.
It's also the indigenous people's
well,
day.
I
And
think
I'm
you go back.
super uncomfortable with you negating that. as a
I
holiday.
apologize for saying Columbus Day. You're right. I agree with.
Yes.
the,
Even
when
though
you
I'm-
listen to the discussion.
Yeah.
The board was saying, we do not want to have any construction activity on federal holidays. That was the board's position.
Right.
Or
Observe, we try to get add observe to it.
Yeah.
town meeting went directly opposite to that with the amendment. And they said, we want construction activity on all federal holidays.
I thought they said Sundays.
No.
No, they did both.
They
I
said
should
both.
think this clarify what are the
Initially-
holidays.
Go, I listened to it twice.
Tim got up and
Okay, you listened to it.
We listened.
Yeah.
Well, that
The
one person
amendment-
said that.
So town meeting said, no, we want it to be more open. And we want activity
Right.
on all of the federal holidays. The motion, the actual amendment instructed the selectmen to go back and to choose holidays that the construction activity would be allowed on. Okay, but the intent was to make it as open as possible. After reviewing all of the holidays, the selectmen settled on having only 2 of the 11 where construction activity was allowed. And it was a balancing act because the 2 that were selected are in the normal construction season, but they're not major significant holidays like the 4th of July or whatever. And the intent of
Okay, Mark,
Town
I think we
meeting
should
was-
stop that. I feel super uncomfortable that we.
We're gonna have a public hearing.
Yeah, two people color holidays to eliminate. I really think we should add it
The-
back in.
I listened to,
I think it's a slap in the face
we
to
met
the
with the town moderator. She had the exact
Guess.
same opinion as to what the town, this was a major discussion. What were we told to do? And we believe as a select board that we had to select. Now, we could have said, we don't want any,
I think it's wrong.
but
Right.
that would have been in violation of the intent of town meeting.
The intent
that's
of the
why I-
meeting was to clarify, I don't think they are
Okay,
insisting
well,
that you cut out holidays.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
I think that what is that because of how this discussion here, they are having a public hearing. We're gonna revisit this topic. And I think all these are really important conversations to have.
right. we
Where
should
it
have
can be,
then.
yeah, and then if it need be, then we go back to the town again for
Right.
clarifying. So I think that that's really the forum for this discussion, because that's when we.
As of that vote, the town allows does not apply the unreasonable noise standard on Sundays from 9 AM to 7 PM. And does not apply the unreasonable noise standard on any federal holiday, on all federal holidays except Juneteenth and Columbus Day. That is the position that the town has taken based on the vote, the intent, and it was select board and the moderator confirmed it. But we also recognize that this is a very controversial decision, and so that's why I said at the beginning that sometime in May, by June, where we will have a public hearing where we can air this out and decide, and the select board will decide whether to go forward with a special town meeting, which we can do. It's not a monetary issue, so, and then we revote, then we relitigate the issue. All the registered voters come and we do the same thing over again on this one issue. And either people confirm the vote or the town changes its mind and selects something else. But that's where we think we are on the matter.
Okay.
And it's not really a planning board issue
I
anyway.
understand it's not a planning board issue. We have to move on. I think that this, if the select board are going to, just my personal opinion, if the select board is going to do something about this, you better get it done before we move June.
Yeah, well, that we're coming up to a season where things are open now and construction is going on. We've discussed it now, I think, 3 times at select board meetings as to what we were doing, how we interpreted it and confirmed it, and what our plan is going forward. So everyone's gonna get a shot at this
I think
again.
you also
I
better
guess I missed it
reconsider.
right up in the way wag.
Yeah.
that
You also
these were
better
2
consider
holidays
what
that would be.
construction period is. Sitting in a construction zone, so.
Right,
I will tell you that there was construction going on where we are, as well as over on 49. There was construction going on there right through the winter.
yeah,
So, you gotta be careful when you say construction period.
it's the
I know what you're
unreasonable
saying.
noise standard
I know what you'd
does
say,
not apply to 2 federal holidays now
right,
and Sundays.
the only reason I'm saying that is you use the word construction period.
Right, so you gotta flip it a little.
Yeah.
It gets confusing. We're not prohibiting construction. It's unreasonable noise.
And is that defined?
It is actually in the noise ordinance.
It is.
Basically, it's in the ear of the hearer who then takes action to make a complaint. We don't have any way, we do not have a way to measure sound levels. Right, so that was what we came up with as a way to deal with it. Anyway,
I moved to buy a noise meter.
well, it's more than that, right? I mean, it's the whole structure for code
Very useful
enforcement.
during bike week.
Yeah, but it's, well, that is addressed too in the noise ordinance. There's a whole paragraph on noise from vehicles.
All right, why don't we move on? Yeah, all right, so the next item is review of the master plan action items. If I recall, we hadn't actually singled out which items we were going to tackle for this year. We just have.
a few in here.
Yeah, why don't you put some in there?
Was that in the previous
Yeah,
meeting? Yeah.
yeah,
Action items you wanted to.
there were,
Or you guys want.
and I think we just identified some more.
And the select board will be working with town staff to go over its
You're right.
Yeah,
it's a punch list of action items. We discussed that yesterday in the select board, that we need to look at that and decide which ones we need to look at. Since we now have a master plan, and the select board is a primary in a number, several town departments are primary in a number of these action items. So we will be looking at it from the town and staff and select board perspective.
Okey doke, so.
Just
Thank you
as
for
part of
reminding
that,
Yeah.
next month, after staff has had a chance to talk to the select board, we'll bring in the ones that we're working on there are a lot of them that apply to ongoing projects and things.
Mhm.
So we can bring that back to you guys. Highlighted, this is what the town staff is working on.
Okay.
And then we can see if there's any overlap or if you think that there are other things we should be addressing.
Okay, so town staff will have its own list.
Which will include the select board items.
Is that something that you'd be able to maybe email,
Yeah, next
John and
week,
myself?
next week I'll be able to email it out.
Okay,
Everyone.
oh, everyone, that's great. All right, does everyone have the list from last time? It's in the,
We're talking about the action.
It's the goals, line 69, I think it begins in the minutes, it's the goals for this year. It does have action, it has action plan items, it has zoning items, some of which we've touched upon.
Yep, and amended.
okay, thank you.
How long do we have Tara?
Oh, yeah,
All year?
Yeah,
yeah, we,
I think
thank God.
the goal was to not just have this be a dormant list, but to have you guys reviewing parts of it all the time. Just to make sure that we're moving some of this stuff forward.
Okay.
You know, otherwise it just sits on the shelf.
Flex this?
And taking it in chunks is a good approach too, because it's like.
yeah,
It's only 120.
121.
chapter 8, action items.
Okay, so thank you for my temporary forgetting. All right, so we all have it. You guys read the minutes. I don't need to repeat it. Does anyone have any issues or questions or additions
We already identified
aside from what we added on zoning issues?
discussion earlier.
There's
Wait, see what the town says and where we can marry, I think would be great, because then we'll hopefully put together a great proposal in line with what the town was working on and what we envisioned.
Do you expect to have many items?
There were a bunch.
There's like 30 or 40.
Yeah, I mean, it's rec department, public works.
Okay,
Yeah, just
Select
as an
board.
example, the wastewater treatment facility project takes care of 7 things or something.
Right.
On the list, so.
okay, well, great. Well, if you guys are doing it, then we'll just work with you to whatever we can do to help.
I mean, there are 2 action plan items that are mentioned in the minutes. Certainly, we can look at those. There are others, I mean, people can look through them and see which ones they,
Oh,
They-
there's a lot of action plan items.
yeah.
I think I'm trying to remember how many years ago it was and who I worked with. But I was on a committee for dark sky compliance. I don't know, I don't think anybody here was on board at that time, besides me. And we tried years ago to work on it, so, yeah, it's a tough issue because it can get kind of technical.
Right.
And then the actual measuring of it is
We can't.
awful.
No, you don't have the meter.
So there's
Okay,
ways to get around it by just talking about the things that, are on the label of the bulbs and the label of the fixtures, as opposed to trying to measure the actual lumens, lumens that you're.
And whether it's glare or noise, light trespass or.
Well, there's things there's things that are pretty obvious,
Right.
like, is the fixture, covering the, the glare of the bulb and things like that,
Right.
so.
The
So
color
it can be
of the bulb
done.
too, right? The,
Pardon?
color of the bulb and,
Yes.
help soften.
Right, and the heights and things that are easier to do, so that's one of the things that needs to be taken into account. So I think maybe next time, maybe John and I can work on, we'll probably we might consider breaking out some smaller committees to work on these things.
I totally want to be on that one.
Yeah, because we don't want to
Dark skies will be a good one.
just have everybody talk about everything from the beginning to the end.
No, and you could have people between now and then on the planning board look at down the action item plan and select which ones they think we ought to participate beyond the ones that are listed here.
Well, I think we should start with what's listed here.
Yeah,
This
that-
is a
but-
pretty big,
List,
yeah.
Yeah.
Because we've got the CIP, the town core, dark sky. My glasses.
yeah, I was just looking at it in terms of the action plan.
We've got the natural, scenic and historic resources,
That's action plan, yeah, dash
Yeah.
guy, action plan.
and we've got the renewables.
Yeah, that's a straight up, I think, zoning change, right? What we're trying to capture there, the difference between somebody putting in an EV station. At a business for customers to use and someone opening up. An EV. Business,
Right, come here, pay money.
come here, pay money for, have 5 or 6 or whatever the number. Our zoning doesn't account for that. I think Tara recommended that.
Yeah.
We discuss that and have a zoning. Amendment that deals with electric vehicle charging
Where
stations.
you can do it.
Yeah, but there's also the issue of solar panels. There's also the issue
Yeah.
of wind.
Yeah,
There's also the issue of what else is out there that we haven't really been thinking about that somebody could take a look at. And then there's the actual language, which means we need a person or two to go look at what has been written up, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So I think that's another small group. Just seeing how many other things there are.
There's a matter of stormwater control and erosion.
Yeah, I think that's all under the natural, scenic and
Yeah.
historic. So we've got the natural, scenic and historic, the dark sky, renewables, and the zoning issues. We've already got people on town core and CIP. So that's 4 different groups to think about, and we should probably all think about at least joining one of those. And we can volunteer next time.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Madam Chair, I need to leave, so
Okay.
if you can see somebody,
Leaving.
I apologize.
No problem. I think we're getting close to done. Margaret's the only one left.
That's right. Margaret,
Yeah. Couldn't stand there.
perfect.
Should I seat Margaret? at this
Yes,
point?
I'm
Okay.
officially leaving at whatever
Okay.
9.
So I'd like to seat Margaret in Rich's place. The next item is correspondence. I don't know if we've received.
Yep, we have one piece of correspondence, it came from the town of Woodstock. It is a notice of a communications tower being built. Not sure why we received it, because it's on the west side of I-93. So it's over by Warren, it's not on the Waterville Valley side of the town of Woodstock. The only thing I can think of is it is on the Kangamangas Highway, and the Kangamangas goes through Waterville Valley, so. Don't know where the piece of paper went.
Quarter of a mile?
Yeah.
I know where. it is.
Yeah, a quarter of a mile, it like comes up.
Oh, it will come together?
Yeah, I don't even think it's a quarter of a mile.
So it.
We did it years ago.
No,
this year.
last week.
Last week?
Yeah.
So, so it's a notice, anyone's welcome to look at it. It, just, we can attend the public hearing that they're gonna hold on the tower, but it really has nothing to do with us at all. I mean, it's,
Is it the
It's
same
fine.
as what happened in wasn't it Thornton?
well, yes, it
Yes.
is the same type of notice,
Except
but
here-
that
here.
was something you could see from Welch Dickey.
Right.
And could actually see from the town of Waterville Valley, this.
And
there's no way-
it affected
It's
more
20
of
miles
Waterville
away.
Valley on 49.
Did the Thornton one pass?
No.
No,
And so is this the same company?
Try again.
but this will only give more, when I read it, for the thing. It will only give more, it's not gonna affect Waterville Village, it's only gonna affect that itty bitty portion up off of the tank.
No, this won't have anything to do with that. This is 30 or 40 miles away from that. It's all the way over by Warren.
Oh, that's way over, okay, has
Yeah.
nothing to do with anything.
So it does
Doesn't
not
affect
have
us at all.
anything to do with us. No, I think they may have gotten the town of Waterville Valley mixed up with the town of Warren and sent us the notice instead of them, who knows?
Oh, boy.
But
Okay,
this, when we
Whatever.
check the location, when we check the location, it has nothing to do.
okay,
But you're welcome
so
to.
that portion of the tank is still there. Okay,
Okay, thank you. Committee reports, town core group. We haven't met since the last meeting and we're not meeting this month. Our next meeting is next month on the 9th. Okay. Conservation Commission, John?
Hi, so there's not much change, still waiting on Rick Vanderpool to come in this spring to work on that mediation at the pond area. And that's about all we have at this point in time. We're talking about dredging the pond again one more time. But that's in the future right now. So that's about all I have for you at this point.
John,
Yes,
now that we have water runoff. Up off of the Golden Heights area with that one vacant lot. Has anybody gone up there to see? How the runoff would affect that building lot?
yes, we actually have Rick, Rick Vanderpool kind of guiding us with that. So we are looking at that. Yes.
Because I can't really get up there now,
Mhm.
unless you want to carry me. Feels like a drive.
That's about all I have at this point.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next is a calendar review. Aside from the next regularly scheduled meeting, I don't think we have anything else.
The only thing on the calendar, there will be dates coming down from the New Hampshire Municipal Association for new member classes. We do not have those dates yet. But they are usually in the spring. So after town meeting. So we will send those out by email, but they're good classes on what the duties and responsibilities of the planning board are. So
Yeah, and are they virtual now, some of them, or?
some of them are, they're starting to get back together, but some of them, most of the training is virtual webinars.
Yeah, I would recommend it. I can barely remember. 'Cause it's
Don't they have
long ago,
the
but
annual?
It was good.
That's in November. The annual conference is in November.
I thought it was in May. Okay, never mind.
Well, you may be thinking about the training classes because they happen every year. And I think they are in May, so we'll get you. the
Okay.
dates.
The next meeting is the 11th.
Yes.
And do we have a meetings, the next meeting scheduled for the housing people for the grant? Have they set anything up?
There's a virtual webinar coming up in the next couple of weeks, but outside of that, I believe the plan is really individual interviews. He's a business owners, they're gonna be doing, not sure that we've scheduled any other public hearing yet, that's down the road. On the books.
Okay, great. All right, well, is there any other business anyone has? Great, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Second,
Great,
Morgan, do you mind?
Mike Geiger, aye.
Nancy Knight, aye.
Catherine Brennan, I.
Jenny, I.
Bill, I.
Margaret. The meeting's adjourned. Mine wasn't good. Okay,
42. Remember that one? Well,
I know. It was before.
Just about.